Hi, my name's Noel. I'm a psychotherapist. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And if you're watching this film on my website, welcome to my website. This is a very short video post on a topic called codependency. So I'm just going to briefly explain or outline what codependency is, some of the issues that you might have, some of the other issues connected to it, such as mental health issues, why it develops, and crucially what I can do to help you overcome it, which is the important bit of it. So what is codependency? Well, it's first thing to say about it is that it's learned behaviour. You've learned this behaviour, which means the good news is you can learn new behaviour. Generally, codependence expresses itself in us repeating a series of negative, unhealthy, intimate relationships to somebody else. So we find ourselves getting hooked up with the wrong person again and again and again, or seemingly the wrong person. So we go from one difficult or disastrous relationship to another. That's one version of what happens in codependency. Another version is that we find we're in a relationship with somebody who we know is not good for us, but we can't seem to break out of it. We can't seem to develop enough of a sense of ourselves to move on, to say it's time to end this. And that's another version of codependency. So where does all this come from? This difficulty in relating to another person intimately. And we're talking about intimate partners here. If it's learned behaviour, where do we learn it? Typically, or rather one way we learn it is through our childhood. We may have had a very dysfunctional childhood. You may have had a very dysfunctional childhood, and that may have involved a parent with a problem around addictions, or a parent with a problem around impulse control, around their temper and violence. So you learnt strategies for surviving that and for dealing with their inability to meet your needs as a child. It may be that you learnt these patterns and behaviours later in life because you became involved with somebody who was violent, so you experienced a lot of domestic violence as an adult. If that goes on long enough, of course you try and survive that as best you can. And codependent strategies can seem like they're working at the time to reduce the violence. Same with if you're involved with somebody with an addiction, an active addiction, an alcoholic or addict. You may have had to adjust your behaviour and even your thinking to try and somehow manage or feel that you're managing their addiction for them. You may have felt responsible for that addiction. They may well have made you feel, they may well have said it's because of you. You did that, therefore I picked up another drink, it's your fault, and you come to believe that. Well, I'm here to tell you that none of that is true. You're not responsible. The only person that you have any responsibility towards is yourself. So codependency comes out in a series of patterns and characteristics. I've got a book here which I'm going to refer to. So difficulties in denying what you're feeling, knowing or how you feel or what you feel about something, or altering or minimising your feeling. So thinking of the childhood example, you may deny that you're angry with a parent because you think as a child if you love them more they'll stop using or they'll stop hitting you or something like that. It's a very understandable sort of response, and therefore later in life anger becomes a feeling that you deny, minimise, alter, you can't express. It may be that because of that you get caught up in this pattern of relationships of getting involved with people who are not really very available emotionally, but somehow you're attracted to them, to fixing them, trying to sort them out. So those are what we call denial patterns. Other patterns around low self-esteem. So you might have difficulty in making decisions. You're unable to know what your needs are, to define them, and certainly unable to ask for them in an open and honest manner. Unable to say to somebody, what I would like right now is to be cuddled, not to have sex, for example. That may feel impossibly difficult for you to do. Compliance is another area, remaining overly loyal. That's obvious in the case of having been involved with somebody who's violent towards you. You may come out of that relationship and think, why did I go on for so long? But that's part of codependency, that people do this. They stay in these very negative patterns for a long time. Accepting sex when really what you wanted was hugs or cuddles or intimacy or a chat or a walk. Giving up your own personal truths to gain other people's approval. Asserting yourself becomes very difficult. You may develop control patterns in the false belief that you can change another person, that you can sort of get them as a child to stop drinking, to stop hitting you, as I've said. The same with an adult partner of yours. You can pretend to agree with people just to try and manipulate them into getting what you want. That sort of manipulation, control, underhand, lying and cheating, that sort of stuff. Unpleasant aspects of codependency, but very real, and ones that can bring out shame and difficult feelings. And then finally, there might be problems around avoidance, some of your avoidance patterns. So that you act in ways that invite shame, as I've just described, from other people. You lied to me. Why did you lie to me? Because you're codependent. It's part of what you do. Using indirect and evasive communication is part of avoidance as well. Again, it's fairly understandable if you think about the original situation it comes from. You may be indirect in your communication because you're trying to avoid being assaulted. That makes sense. But if you do that enough, it becomes an unconscious pattern. So that even in relationships where you're not going to get assaulted, you're still evasive and avoiding because that fear is buried somewhere inside. Withholding affection, withholding love, withholding any emotional display at all can be very much part of these avoidance patterns that you develop. Sort of having no emotions is quite often a survival strategy in situations of extreme violence. If you think so going blank, not having any expression at all, in the hope of not triggering the perpetrator. So all of these things are understandable. Well, what can you do about it? As I said, it's learned behaviour, so you can learn new ways of being. If you come and see me, I will help you understand all your patterns. I will help you overcome them and practice new ways of being, which are much healthier, where you can identify your feelings, identify your needs, and strategies for getting those needs met as well. The other thing about codependency, if it's gone on for a long time, it may have other issues may have come up, such as depression or anxiety. I have a lot of experience in that field, so I can help you with that. If you can look in the rest of my website or look at some of my videos on depression and anxiety, see how I can help with that. Obviously, if you grew up in violence or were in a domestic violence situation as an adult, or even as a child, you may well have post-trauma symptoms. Again, I'm a specialist in that area, I can help you with that, dealing with your enhanced startle reflex, nightmares, managing your feelings, your emotions, particularly anger, angry outbursts, those types of things, using a variety of techniques such as cognitive behavioural therapy or creative therapy as well. So there are many things I can help you with there. Dealing with your interpersonal needs, learning how to have new skills with people around getting your needs met and being honest with people, being open with them. So it is more than possible to get over this, to overcome these problems with help. I also work in recovery in codependency. So if you're able to do this, I'd be looking at whether you join some recovery-based groups as well. So peer-to-peer groups where you can share the problems and the strategies, the new healthier strategies with people, get a support network around you. I think one of the most difficult things about codependency is that it's very isolating. Some of the habits that are developed, codependent habits, can be very isolating, very off-putting to other people. It's difficult to have friends, if you're evasive and lying and cheating and those types of things, people don't trust you. So it can be very isolating. So getting a new social network can be a very important thing. And they do exist. They really do exist. And I work very closely with those groups and can help you with them. And also quite often, sort of people coming out of addiction themselves may find that they're heavily codependent in many areas. And I work a lot in addiction recovery. So if you're in recovery from addiction and you need help with codependency, I can help you with that, getting you into recovery-based groups around that. And indeed, you may have been, even if you're not an addict, but you may have been using drugs and drink because you were involved with active addicts or active alcoholics, or you were using a way of self-medicating. So I can help you sort of reduce and stop using in that way if you fall into that group of people. So the good news is this: there's lots of help that I can give you, and recovery from codependency is absolutely possible, more than possible, with the right help. So give me a call if you want to talk more about this. My number is 07506 319 745. That's 07506 319 745. Thanks for dropping by. Goodbye.